Hey, Timucin, how are you?
Hey, how's it going?
I'm good, thanks, mate. Good, thanks. Thanks for appreciate you taking the time.
Oh no, thanks for the offer, man.
Is that Fenerbahçe on the wall as well?
That's those are like Fenerbahçe ones from. That's kind of like I guess kind of like part of my story. I guess my grandfather is like one of the all-time greats of Fenerbahçe, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so kind of like born into the whole thing. So my mom's dad, basically, he used to play Fenerbahçe in like the 30s, and like if you go now to like Wikipedia and stuff like that, he's listed there as like one of the all-time greats and stuff like that, obviously for that era and stuff like that. But yeah, so I have like we actually do something with my brother for Fenerbahce, and then obviously I do the American Scouts thing. So
I'm getting nosy now, and this is well off topic, but how does that come about as a kid? Like, you start finding out these things. Obviously, Fenerbahce, massive club in Turkey. Does that come with anything as a kid? Like, do people ask you questions about it? Was it always a topic of conversation, or was it just...
no, I mean,
was
I
me
grew up
granddad?
in Turkey. Like
Yeah.
I grew up a Fenerbahce fan. I mean, I basically left Turkey for college.
Yeah.
So not really. I mean, you're kind of like born into it family wise. I know like growing up, the Anatolian side is usually Fenerbahce fans. The European side is kind of like divided into God's side. Now it's so mixed, but growing up back in the day, like Kadıköy, the Asian side of Istanbul is mostly like Fenerbahce fans and stuff like that's what
Okay.
the suburb of Fenerbahce is and everything as well. But I was like kind of born into it, my entire family. I mean, obviously my mom and stuff like that, because his side, I mean, my dad and stuff too. Like we were all like, everybody was a Fenerbahce fan. I don't think you could survive. That's why I always find it weird. It's like a discussion we always have, when we talk about, like split families and like Everton and, like Liverpool and stuff. It's a weird phenomena to us because I would wish nothing but the worst for Galatasaray. Whereas when we had a lot of those discussions on air, and like I did admit that I find it hard to understand as a Fenerbahce fan, because I wish I would go down to the 80th division for all I care. Whereas because of people were thinking of the city and stuff, there were a lot of Liverpool fans who did not want Everton to get relegated because of what it would mean for the city and stuff. Whereas that would not be an issue for Fenerbahce Galatasaray. You just wish the worst on them. That's possible. So
Yeah.
so
I'm from a split family, so I can see both sides of it. My mum's side are from Toxteth, and my dad's side are basically from Everton. So as a kid, my uncle got me into Liverpool, but my dad would take me to Everton as well. So my first ever game, actually, when I was a kid, I think I was 6, was an Everton game in '87. I wish them to finish 17th every season. Let's just put it that way. On the last day of the season, every season, that'll do me. 17th. It's perfect.
Welcome to the Crossing the Pond podcast, hosted by me, Gary Adair, where each week our guests will recount their own experiences of resilience and transformation, whether it's moving to a new country, tackling health challenges, changing careers, or breaking through personal barriers.
My guest this week, Timucin Uras, has built a home wherever football and friendship meet. A lifelong Fenerbahce fan, Timucin discovered Liverpool FC during his university days in the UK and found something familiar: passion, pride, and a sense of family that any football team can create. Now, through the American Scouser podcast, he's built a community that brings those values to life, connecting fans across oceans, celebrating the highs, laughing through the lows, and reminding all of us the support of any nature goes way beyond 90 minutes. For Timucin and this growing fan base in America, it's never just about football. It's about having a sense of belonging and finding the best way to connect with home. Obviously, grew up in Turkey, moved to the US to play college soccer. Am I right?
Actually, I started in London. My dad used to work in London at the time. He was working for a Turkish company. So I started in London, which it was like Regent's College, like literally right in the middle of London. And the setup they had, and we were actually the first group to do this out of college, like students that are part of Regent's College, is the third year you came to the US. And you went to Rockford College for your junior year. And then, you could go back and graduate. If we did, we were actually the first class to be graduating out of Regent's College doing that, or you could stay here, transfer, whatever the case might be. My dad passed away when I was a sophomore in college, when I was in London actually as a sophomore. So when I came over here, it was always going to be like, if I like it, I'm going to give it a shot and see if I want to stay here or not. Because, those were like more the options, or maybe I go back home. My brother was in London at the time and stuff too. But yeah, like came here for college for the junior year. That's how I ended up in Rockford, which was kind of like a weird, that's why everybody asked, like, how the hell did you end up in Rockford kind of a deal? That's why I was in Rockford. And yeah, like kind of like wanted to give it a shot anyway. And I met my wife in college. But I was playing in London and I played over here as well. But it was mainly like the Rockford choice, I guess in some ways was not a choice. It was kind of like, this is where you were kind of, was almost like a study abroad thing coming over here to Rockford for the third year.
Right. Okay. Was it, so regardless of that, I mean, obviously it was a sink or swim thing. What was your first impressions of the US on and off the field?
Honestly, it's weird. I think what made it weirder was student life is different, right? I think if I came over here now as like a 50-year-old dude, I think it would be a lot different work environment and stuff like that. I think a lot of things are common as a student, but lifestyles are different. How, people, I think, view the world is very different. I mean, I remember, and I think these things have changed, mind you. Like, I'm an old man now, like, but growing up, like in Turkey, I mean, in London, like, you kind of dressed up when you left the house, right? It's a very American thing to just go out there with like pajama pants. Like, I used to pick up my daughter from school and stuff. There were like people like literally walking out with pajama pants. I was like, but in some ways that's cool. Like in the beginning, it was very odd. I remember like I'd be on campus, we're going to go to dinner the first week or so. I'm putting in a shirt. It's not like I'm getting all dressed up, like wearing a tie or anything, but you kind of dress up. You don't like, just go out there with like a t-shirt and,
semi-presentable. Semi-presentable. Yeah.
I'm getting ready. They're like, where are you going? And I was like, cafeteria. They're like, oh, you're all dressed up. And I was like, oh, and a week later, I was like, okay, so we're not dressing up over here. But I think overall student life is the same. My biggest adjustment probably was the fact that I went from living in Istanbul, a huge city, London, another huge city, to Rockford, where like it was the first city where I could drive out of. Like you knew the city was behind you. Like you're like, oh shit, we just left the city kind of thing. Whereas, you can drive for hours in Istanbul and in London and you'd still be in London somehow kind of a deal. So I think that was the biggest adjustment, was going to a smaller city. I mean, it's close to Chicago. I'm in the Chicago suburb right now. But I think that was a funny story, actually. I came over from the airport. There are direct shuttles to Rockford. So I take the shuttle. This is such a stupid experience, but yeah, I take the shuttle and then they bring you to this, like the hotel is where the drop-off point was, which is kind of like across the street, maybe like a mile or two from the campus. And I mean, you know how it is. I think it's changed now with Uber, but growing up, you didn't have to find a taxi in a big city. Taxis found you. Like if you walked, they would be like, honk, 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 like in a taxi kind of a thing. And that's how Istanbul is. That's how London was.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking I'll just, hail a taxi and head on over there. So it's me, this Turkish kids with 2 suitcases coming out of the hotel. And if anybody like from Rockford is listening, State Street is like this huge street. It's like 3-lane each way, like a typical American going through State Street kind of a thing. And I kind of assumed I go out to the road and, there'll be a bunch of taxis. I just
flag a cab. Yeah.
Dude, I stood there and I'm like, what is going on? Like no taxi, like nothing. I just like 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And then I go back inside and I was like, hey, like there are no taxis. So I'm like, yeah, you gotta call them. And I'm like, gotta call them. And I called and I remember there were like 45 minutes. I was like, where am I? What kind of a country is this? What is going on over here? But I think the biggest adjustment was the fact that it was a smaller city. Like if you were in like Chicago, you could go out to the streets and the taxi would find you and stuff. But like little things like that, like the food and stuff like that. But I think the fact that I came as a student, there's so many things about being a college student around the globe that it wasn't as big of an adjustment probably.
Right. Okay. And then so obviously you meet your now wife.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that was a contributing factor. But did your father ever sort of, before he passed, did he ever instill that value into you? Like, listen, get yourself out there, travel, be a person who sort of puts himself in positions that maybe other people back home might not have done?
I mean, I don't think he like went out of his way to preach or like push that in a way, but I think we were always raised to be like responsible and, like think about it hard, think about decisions hard, make the right decision. but do what you want to do. Like we were not really channeled either way. And I'm kind of like, we've kind of done the same with my daughters now. Like do what you like to do, want to do. Like he was more than okay with me giving a shots in staying here. He always enjoyed working away from Turkey in the sense that, I mean, he wasn't, we were, I spent a year in Saudi Arabia. My dad like worked there for a Turkish company. He worked in Italy for a Turkish company, and he worked in London at a Turkish company, like far away from the base and the corporate world where he runs his own like world kind of a thing. And then you deal with the big shots for like 1 week a year, and that's about it kind of a deal. So he kind of like enjoyed that. And he kind of like, my parents both, we traveled. I remember like as a kid, we drove across Europe and stuff like that. So we were always into traveling, trying different things and stuff like that. And it's weird, like, you kind of pass it on now, but you're not told. But when you grow up in an environment like that, it's like osmosis. You kind of like absorb that, and that's, that becomes natural and normal to you, I think.
Yeah, definitely. So what is it you do now then because I know we're going to get to the biggest reason is because you've started up American Scouser and your relationship to Liverpool Football Club. But what are you actually doing as your day job? Because I understand, like I've done this now for 2 years, and it is a lot of juggling and a lot of plate spinning just to get this going. Like, so what do you actually do for your day job as well?
The biggest thing that has helped is I work from home now. I was
great.
in retail management for like 25 years. Like started straight out of college and did that for a long time. And the moment I was able to, like financially, and the girls were all grown up and, stuff like that, got to a certain level, and with the wife's pushing, kind of like got out of that and did our own thing. So she always did this like a custom apparel business. And then now basically we do it together from home, like online sales and stuff like that. So the biggest thing would be I have not missed a game in ages because I can kind of revolve my schedule around games, pre-match shows, post-match shows, and stuff like that. So that's probably been like the nicest thing about working from home, is like being able to adjust that schedule and accommodate. Because I mean, you know how it is. I mean, American Scouser, I mean, it is kind of like a part-time job at this point. A part-time job that doesn't pay though. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a part-time. It's a voluntary position with full-time hours. Is basically what it is.
And pretty much, because you're almost like on call at all times, because if something goes wrong, somebody has a question, you got to address it. We have a lot of people involved in the site now too, but it's, as long as it's fun, I think that's okay. And I think that's like the biggest thing, is making sure it stays as a fun project and does not become to work, because that doesn't
become a job. Yeah, I completely agree with you. I'm laughing to myself though when you're saying about people coming out in America in the pajamas. You've clearly never been down in town on a Saturday afternoon in Liverpool when people are walking around with the pajamas on and the rollers in and everything else.
Yeah, see, I mean, here's the thing though, like I know, like when I was in London, it was, like I was a college student and I was in the center of London. I mean, we lived in like Surbiton, so it was like the suburb, but like my dad's job was there, and the campus is right off of like the Baker Streets.
Yeah. Oh, Liverpool is a different animal as well. Liverpool,
and I think that's part of it as well. And I think maybe I was not as exposed to that. It was like, middle of the city. It would be like downtown Chicago. You're not going to have a lot of dudes walking around with like pajama pants.
It's true though, isn't it? So every supporter, and you'll know this because you deal with so many supporters in your little fan base. Every supporter's got a story. Like, how does your connection to Liverpool begin? Because again, big Fenerbahçe fan. I mean, and that is a religion in itself in Turkey. But how does your connection to Liverpool begin?
So, like the first contact, I guess, with Liverpool is, and like growing up, people are spoiled now. They complain that they have to pay for Peacock and they have to pay for Paramount and stuff. You could pay all you wanted in the past, and you could not get games, right? Like they were not on TV, and especially in Turkey, watching like English league and stuff was impossible. So European Cups was probably your only shot at watching that stuff. So I remember my first memory of watching Liverpool is the spaghetti legs of Verbal, like 1984. That's what I remember, like as a kid, seeing that and saying, and you're a kid at the time, when you're a little kid, you're picking teams out of jersey colors and all that kind of crap, So initially that was like, I was like, oh, these guys are cool. I like that, like a team with a sense of humor, it almost felt like at the time as a kid. And so that's kind of how it started. And then you kind of like try to keep an eye on them. Obviously, you can't follow them very closely. And then when I came to college in London, my best mate Daniel was actually from Liverpool, and like we met on the first day, and that was like kind of like the bonding thing, like where are you from? Where are you from? And then like Liverpool, I was like, oh, I'm like that's my like favorite team over here and stuff like that. And then that was like instant bond, and that's why it's so weird. Talk about like religion. Sometimes it's kind of like the common bond, right?
Yeah.
And so then I started following a lot closer. Then came to the US, so it kind of like takes a step back because now you're distant again because of like how much soccer you got over here and stuff. So kind of like fell away from a little bit, and that's kind of like why I initially started American Scouser, because I was like, there has to be other people like me out there.
Yeah.
And actually, it's my fault probably for not seeking it out better, like on social media and stuff like that. But even then, it was like social media was kind of new. So I was like, man, I want to start something because there has to be other people like me who, over here, like I say, I work retail. So I could go to work. There was a Zbyszek, a Polish gentleman I worked with. Aside from that, first thing I would say is, Zbyszek, don't tell me the score. I'm recording it. So you could live the whole day. I could work all day long and go home and watch the game like live. And I know, that's not a possibility if you live in the UK, if you live in Turkey. Like, you're going to find out the Fenerbahçe score. You can literally run your errands and listen to the game because every store you go to is going to be on the radio. So as you move around, you're going to be able to listen to the full game. I was like, there has to be other people like me. It can't be just me and Zbyszek in Chicago over here. So that's kind of like how it started, trying to like reach out other people. And we started with like, initially there were like a couple of people saying like, oh, it's a cool idea. I would like to like, help you build it. And then over time, it has become something like much bigger and much different really than initially what I was probably looking to do.
Were you looking for it to be a sort of just like you said then, was it just supposed to be a connector? Just finding different people, having a little bit of a common interest, and just, do you think that sort of thing helped you as well at the beginning? Because what year would you have set this up?
We're talking like probably like 8 years ago now.
Okay.
When I first started it. And I think, the first thing was more, I think, about connecting with other people because, there was literally nobody to talk to, at least for me. And sometimes it's therapy, right? When you root for a team, and we always talk about that, when we do a post-match, you feel a lot better afterwards. You trying to get it off the chest, and like you talk to somebody else about it who gets it. And I think that's like the biggest thing, like who gets it. I can complain all day at work and saying like, I can't believe they didn't score that. If they score that, doesn't matter, like that's not a conversation you're going to be able to have with anybody else. They're not going to get it. And I think, like American sports obviously is very different than the passion like soccer, like slash, what football, whatever you want to call it, has. So it was initially somebody connecting with others who get it and who you can talk to the game about and, like just bond, maybe watch together, whatever the case might be. That was the initial thing. And then when I saw that, man, there's a lot of people like this. And then obviously with like YouTube and stuff like that afterwards, we had people like writing for the website, kind of built the website. It just kind of took a mind of its own. And then it became a community. And that was the cool part about it. And that's what I wanted to keep. We have like a community that's, like we have a Discord channel. Everybody knows everybody. Like I host a morning show on the American Scouser, and it almost feels like I really love, it's almost like an online cheers where people walk in and be like, good morning, like it's just like, and I think that kind of like the community, people know each other's stories. And aside from that, it's one thing to know people. We've done like fundraisers, and we've helped each other out throughout different situations because we have that thing in common. And that's sometimes the only thing we have in common is Liverpool. So
being an immigrant as well, much like myself, as I came here, I don't know, say 22 years ago, I came here, and I was fortunate in the similar to yourself where I was in an environment with other coaches who came over for football, but eventually you break away and find your own way, don't you? Like you say, you've met your wife and obviously you've had that connection, but you go and get a job or you go and do something else. And the community that you came over with at first, like, it sort of whittles away. How do you think you've been able to, or what do you think that community that you've developed helps you do to learn about other people? Like, for example, yourself and myself, or does it closen you? Like, is there other Scousers in your network that now gets you just that little bit closer to Liverpool and understanding things and picking things up along the way?
I think that's a big part of it. You have some people, you have some scouters in there, like, expats who are in the US who can kind of, I mean, we were talking about it like before we went on air about like, the Everton Liverpool versus Fenerbahçe Galatasaray, right? And you need somebody from within to kind of like explain you that, because it's a very foreign concept to me as a Fenerbahçe fan. I wish, the worst on Galatasaray, whereas we are Liverpool fans who were like, no, we don't want them to get relegated. It'll be terrible for the city and stuff like that. Whereas, I can't ever think of it like that in my head, because, Istanbul will just be fine if Galatasaray was in the fourth division. It might even be a better place, to be honest. So, it's cool to have that insight to certain things. And I think Liverpool is a very special club. I'll admit, I think a lot of American fans do not understand like what makes Liverpool different. It's just not a club. There's a lot more like politics that go to it as well. There's a certain stance you take on certain things as a Liverpool fan, which is a very foreign concept, especially to Americans, because American sports have done a really fine job of taking themselves out of politics and everything so that they can capitalize regardless of where you are in your politics. They can suck the money out of you. That's what the main goal of American sports is. And I think sometimes that's kind of like hard to comprehend for like, fans in the US not understanding, I keep my politics and sports separate. Well, I'm happy for you, but this is how this club is. I mean, and you have to understand that. And I think that was my biggest thing when I met down in England, and then, kind of started to learn more about the team. I kind of like those aspects a lot more. And it's very similar to Fenerbahçe in the sense that Fenerbahçe is seen in Turkey as the team that's like Atatürk's team. So it represents more about like the secular Turkey and, like the modern Turkey and stuff like that. And, like its history is based on that. So you can't just want like Islamic law and be a Fenerbahçe fan, because you're contradicting yourself, because this is Atatürk's team and stuff. So I think there were like little things in Liverpool that kind of like really attracted me, because it felt like it stood for something aside from just guys wearing red playing the game and being a good team or whatever. And I think that's what I really liked about it. And it helps when you have people who are from there to kind of like, reinforce that and tell you more about that and say, this is why the city feels this way and stuff like that, especially to newer fans. I knew it because, I was in London and I had like Daniel, and I researched it, right? But I think we have a lot of newer fans on our like Discord channel or on our channels, on our live shows and the audiences and stuff. It's good to have those people hear it from the horse's mouth in terms of like, this is what it is and why. You can deny it, but this is what it is and why, kind of a deal.
You know what's funny? And this is again off topic, me being just selfish. I remember I don't know if you've ever seen this one. Remember the ESPN 30 for 30s?
Mm-hmm.
And they did the Hillsborough one.
Yes.
Right. So I'd obviously watched it, and I wasn't there. My cousin was there and people were there. And funnily enough, my dad, being an Everton fan, was at the other semi-final on that day. So Everton played Norwich on that day, and he was at the other semi-final. So he was like, obviously no phones, no one knew what was going on, but he had friends who were at Hillsborough. But obviously everyone's affected by it. And the amount of people that were like, I didn't realise that is what happened. And now it makes sense why you don't like certain things and why you stand up for certain things. And I'm like, yeah. But like you said then, if you don't have A, the horse's mouth, or B, the perspective or the knowledge of the history of it all, it's difficult to comprehend for some people. People just think that we're miserable and we moan about everything, but it's not the case. It's like we're prepared to fight for stuff, and whether that's a social issue or if it's a club issue, we're always going to fight over it. So it is funny, and it's a good way of getting it out there. How did you make those initial connections when you and your Polish mate? I'll butcher his name, so I'm not even going to say it. But like, how do you initially get those connections out there to start it off at the beginning?
Honestly, I think it was through Facebook at the time, and I didn't even realize. And I think this is one thing that the supporter clubs that Liverpool has here, I think, should probably be doing a better job of overall. Some of them are excellent, some of them not so much. And this is more on me, probably not researching it enough before. I mean, maybe it's good because I started American Scouts, or maybe otherwise I'd be like, oh, there's already a group in Chicago, kind of a thing. But I think it was like posting on like a couple of like Liverpool groups, And then people thinking, oh, that's a kind of a cool concept because they felt the same way. Because, we're scattered when you're on the Facebook, you're kind of scattered around the US. And maybe I'm more spoiled because I'm in a big city, but you could be, I don't know, somewhere in the middle of like North Carolina or like Wyoming or something like that, where there's no soccer fan within like 10 miles at the time, at least when we first started. I mean, it's changed a lot over time. And I think that was like the initial one. And then it just becomes like a word of mouth. And as you get new contributors, they tell other people. I started doing this thing where people were writing like we call it my Liverpool story. People were writing like how they became Liverpool fans, because I find that extremely fascinating. I love reading those because especially in the US, I think everybody has a different story. Somebody is, could be like yourselves and, like an expat and, like passed on from like their father on, or, like it could be like grandparents, could be just nothing, just was watching a game one time. I mean, we had a gentleman talking about he went to a pub and they were really friendly to him. It was like, Liverpool it is. And then I think the thing that's cool about Liverpool is once you do that, as you find out more, you're only going to fall more in love. And you're in, and you're in for good. I think that's what makes the club special. Like my buddy Oytun, who's my best friend from back home, he lives actually in Washington now. No sports, man. You could give him a soccer ball, he would think it's it's a baseball. Yeah, no contact. But he has a daughter who is getting into sports, and I keep telling him, I'm like, dude, don't be doing this. Teach the kid the right stuff. So she's a City fan, because she sees City winning and stuff like that over the last 5 years. I think she's like 10 now or something like that. But I think that's the thing. Like she'll probably fall out of love with City pretty soon once they get points deducted or whatever the heck happens. It's with like Liverpool, I think what's really cool is once you kind of get a taste and you find out more, I think it probably has to align with what you feel and what you think, especially like we said, like politically, social issues and stuff like that. You're going to be like, it's going to become a religion for you. You're going to be in its hardcore. But to do that, you got to start somewhere. And it's always interesting it's a big battle. It's a big battle with Liverpool fans or old timers. There's a lot of gatekeeping, but everybody starts somewhere. It's just a matter of what you do from that starting point is what matters.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Have you seen the sort of mission evolve? Because you said at the beginning it was a lot about connection, but American Scouts are now, like, if you go on the website now, articles, like you said, you have a lot of content on there. Like, how has it sort of evolved into that? Is it simply because you've really captured your followers and they've wanted to get involved as well, and it's just spiraling from there? Because there's a lot on the website. It's good. It's all cool stuff as well.
Probably, and it's probably all over the place, because I think it's a lot of, I want to do this. That's fine. Just go ahead and do it. I think when we first started it was more about, it was going to be a website to connect people and stuff like that. So, and everybody was writing, including me, which is something that was, now looking back, such a terrible decision. But because there was no AI.
I was going to say, can we still find some of your stuff on the website?
You know what? Good thing you told me. I should probably go back and delete those, because you probably. Thanks for the heads up. I should probably, before this airs, I probably should go back and delete those. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, people are all writing to have some content stuff, but over time, as we got stuff, people would be like, what can I do? And my goal was, what are you going to have fun doing? What are you going to enjoy doing? Are you going to enjoy writing? Are you going to enjoy doing something on the website? Are you going to enjoy, eventually, when we started YouTube and stuff, like being on the podcast or making graphics, because that's what you do and that's what you enjoy doing? So the goal was, like we talked about earlier, so it's not work, it's fun. Yeah. Do what you want to do. So
it's it's like the similar sort of thing that your father said as well, right? Follow your passions, follow what you want to do.
Yeah, so that you're having fun doing it. So, I mean, because this could be nothing. Like, this could be just two people reading what you write. And if you don't, I mean, when we started talking on YouTube, there were one live viewer, 2 live viewers and stuff like that. But doesn't matter if you're having fun, because if we're going to talk like this anyway, it doesn't matter if nobody's going to listen. If we're having fun doing this, if you're having fun recording this, having a conversation, talking about Liverpool, whatever it is.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter how many people listen, how many people watch. We had fun. It's just like you do it, you throw it out there. Somebody might really grab it and enjoy it. Somebody might be like, who are these two bozos? Whatever it is, So as long as you're having fun, you don't care. So because we didn't know where it was going to go and how big it was going to get, I didn't want people, hanging their tasks on a dream. I just wanted them to say, I'm going to have fun doing this, so I'm going to do this. So we have people who are actual writers who enjoy writing, so they write and they don't want to talk. There are people who don't want to be on camera, so they do something behind the scenes. There are people who maybe want to be on the camera way too much, so they're in front of the camera, but they're doing something else along the way to help and stuff. So, I mean, everybody kind of does what they enjoy doing and contributing. And as we increase the number of contributors, we were like, hey, we should do this. And probably our most popular thing on the website is the location of all the pubs and bars in the US where you can go watch the game with others, because that was one thing I kept seeing in Facebook groups. And I was like, dude, I can't believe there's nothing like this. And there's nothing showing people where the supporter clubs are. So we basically built that map so that people can say, hey, I'm going to be in Austin for business. Where am I going to watch the game over the weekend? I'm going in there Sunday. They can go to the map and be like, oh, that's where all the Liverpool fans meet, and go hang out with like Steven and all his boys at like Austin and stuff. So that was like, for example, we saw needs and we did it. We actually do want to work on something, because I feel like there's a huge need for that, is traveling to Liverpool, like how to get to a game, what to do, where to stay, and what to do. Especially like Americans are not used to a lot of international travel. A lot of people are very afraid when it's international travel, which is weird, because you speak the language, which is half the battle, right? When you're traveling somebody, you're almost there if you speak the language. Everything else is easy to figure out. But I think, like if people had more of these are good places to eat, this is a nice place to stay. People are always afraid that they're like, oh, that's a great deal. It's like £20 a night. But where am I staying?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You're in Rhyl in North Wales.
Yeah, there's a reason why it's £20. You're like, so that's one thing, like, for example, we want to do, but it kept like kind of like evolving, and I just wanted to. And honestly, like the biggest thing we've done is the fundraisers, and I'm kind of like really the most proud of that, because it kind of like reinforces how far we've gotten. And I kind of like seeing that and how we get together to do something. And I think in some ways, the last 2 years, we worked with the 23 Foundation, with Carragher's 23 Foundation. And we went, we did $5,000 last year, and we actually beat that this year. We do a 24-hour podcast, which is a crazy idea I came up with while on vacation. And then I came back and
I saw this, yeah.
And yeah, they were like, what? And I'm like, no, 24 hours. They were like, okay, so like 8 hours, 8 hours, 8 hours. No, like 24 hours, like straight shot, 24 hours. And it worked, like, I mean, that's a lot of money, like $5,000. But I think what also it does is it kind of like helps us connect to the city and do something well for the city. And I think for a lot of people who kind of look at not only foreign fans, but American fans, which gets a worse rap than foreign fans in some ways, that, I think it shows like this actually means something to us. So you're not just like a glory hunter or whatever, like, all the names that you're going to get called. I think it's kind of like breaks the gatekeeping.
It's almost like yeah, that was my next question, to be fair. Like, how do you, like, there is skepticism. Like, I've been in Anfield before, and I'll probably admit it as well, when I was younger. Like, these people, and I know, granted, like, I grew up in Wigan, even though my whole family's from Liverpool. I grew up in Wigan, so I'd be at Anfield, and you'd hear people, they're not Scousers. What are they doing in here? They're not Scousers. What are they doing in here? I suppose it's a twofold question. How have you sort of dealt with any skepticism early on, given that you're not from Liverpool, and you're talking about the gatekeeping side of it? And then have you had people, or do you have a lot of people who work with you who are actually from Liverpool and are able to tie it all together? Like, and how is it received by those expats?
It's weird, right? I think it's twofold. I think there is the first part, which is just being a foreigner. And I think that's why the American thing kind of like adds another level to it. Because if it was just Turkish Liverpool fans, I think the backlash would have been a lot less. So there's the American aspect of it, because for Turkish people, everybody knows this is the sports. There's no other sports. Like, this is what people live for. So the first battle was like being the foreigner thing. And I think when the name I chose for the site got a lot of And it still gets a lot of backlash, which I always find. I considered at one point, I think it was 3-4 years in, I was like, do we change this before it's too late? And then it became like a thing of spite at some point. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to change it. Just because, I'm not going to change it because a couple of extreme gatekeepers are taking a stance on it. And I think the turning point for me was when the people who would just like comment on our stuff, like all kinds of, I mean, it's the internet. It's, you know how it is.
Yeah,
like,
nonsense everywhere, yeah.
So you get people like doing the commenting, and the same guys were basically pretty much 6 months later calling Kostas the Greek Scouser. And they were preaching that you could not be a Scouser, an American Scouser, because, to be a Scout, you have to be from Liverpool and stuff, which I knew. The only reason I did the name is I didn't want something generic. I wanted something a Liverpool fan would see and be like, that's a Liverpool site. Kind of a deal. And I realized, and they were like, you can be an Everton fan. I get that. So the initial battle was that, I mean, if you go to the website, it's, there's a nice article that's way back in the day, Chris wrote about, why we picked the name. And because I didn't want like LFC USA or something like very generic, like,
corporate almost.
Yes, exactly. Like Anfield in America or something like that. I just did not want that because it felt like cheesy. I wanted something more authentic. It kind of backfired. Like I say, a lot of people were like, you can't be an American and Scouser at the same time. And then when they started calling Kostas Greek Scouser, I was like, oh, okay, we're done now. I'm not changing the name. I'm doing it for spite at this point. And there's a lot of people who, like I say, for every person who is gatekeeping, there is another person who comes in and says, hey, man, I love what you guys do because I can see the passion, because I actually listen. I'm not there just to play defense and kick you out. And I'm always against this. It's a lot harder to be a Liverpool fan in the U.S. than it is in England, because I have to get up. I'm complaining. I have to get up at 6:30. There are people who have to get up at 4:30 to watch a Liverpool game. Right. Mm-hmm. And with the stadium stuff, I hear that all the time. And I get it. I do understand, people are upset that ticket prices are going up. And obviously, like being sold to like foreign, like tourists and stuff like that.
It's a lot
how many
different.
times do we hear, whenever the atmosphere is not good, somehow always the tourists are to blame. Right? Like,
yeah.
When we play Burnley at home, and when the crowd is not all that, it's not like there's like 70% tourists. And when we play, I don't know, like this weekend when we play United, for example, people that like the crowd will really be into it. Okay, why? Are there less tourists? No, there's the same number of tourists. The percentage is going to be the same. The crowd is going to be more into it. And I think that's the hypocrisy that I never understand. Like you say, for people who are not able to get a ticket because they get like out budgeted, or like you say, like people are selling their tickets. Maybe they would get it from them, but they can't now because they're selling it to the highest bidder, which is probably like a tourist who's paying like twice as much or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's part of it. So I definitely do understand that, but I think, the tourists get the blame, like regardless. And I get it too. If I went to the game and paid a guy and the guy next to me is not doing anything, he's just on his phone or something like that, yeah, it would upset me too. But I think that's part of like the battle that we fought. There's like that automatic animosity a little bit. But the biggest thing, I think, like I fight day in and day out, even though, under my name, it always says like the Turkish one. And we have people like from all over, Ireland, Poland, Libya, like all over the place. But the American thing gets a negative aspect of it. I mean, you probably don't want to get too political. I know how political you get on this podcast, but for obvious reasons, it only has gotten worse. But even before that, I think it's because of America's attitude towards the sport that has built kind of like a negative connotation. That they're like, what is that sport and stuff? But that has changed over the years, I think. But I think you get that, like, you guys don't know, stick with your football, stick with your baseball and stuff like that. But like I say, you get a lot on that internet, man, and you just have to kind of look past that negativity. And every time I feel like, is it really worth it, like fighting these people? You get a comment that says, hey, love your guys' passion, man, all the way from over there and stuff like that. And you're like, you know what? Yeah, we're on the right track. And honestly, initially, the site was more geared towards, I don't want to say geared towards, but if you asked me 5 years ago, who do you think the target market would be for people who are going to watch it? I would have said fans here. But I mean, if you tune into the morning show, I would say probably 60-70% of it is not in the US. They're they're in Liverpool, I mean, they're in Singapore, they're in like Germany and stuff like that. It's from all over. And that's why I think it's cool, because I think, people get that. it's the passion. Doesn't matter where you're from, what the passport is, and all that kind of stuff. It's like, how much passion do you have for this sport? But I think, like, going back to what I was saying, those fundraisers kind of have really helped our image in that sense, showing that we actually do care. We're not doing this. One, we're not doing this for the money, because God knows we're not making it. And two, we put in a lot more than we ever take out.
Yeah.
But also, like, we care about it. We're not doing something for here. We're actually doing something for there and sending it from here and stuff like that. So,
do you think that's you talk about then about getting knockdowns and comments from these Muppets online, just putting stuff out there, but every now and again you'll get something. Like, has there been a standout moment or a milestone where you're like, do you know what? This is worth it. This has been worth it. Like, this validates everything that I've done and the team around me have done as well.
That's a good question. Honestly, probably not. I almost feel like those comments are like body punches, right? They don't knock you out, but they kind of like, they bruise here, bruise there, and they slowly kind of like get you down overall, regardless of how thick of a skin you have and how much you say, I don't care. We're all human. We care a little bit because you're putting a lot of effort, and when your effort gets dumped on, it offends you, whether you care about the person dumping it or not. And we all know internet is a dangerous place to care, but still, it is what it is. We're all human. So you take those body punches. I think what happens is when you get a comment like that, or when you do something, or you see something on the Discord channel or you get somebody saying like, hey, I'm so thankful for this community and stuff like that. It's almost like you got one punch in suddenly. And then you're back at it again, like you're fighting again, right? So that's how it feels like. So there's probably not one, but there's a bunch of those like punch moments where you get a big one in and you get some points. And I'm not even a boxing guy. I don't know how this analogy came about, but
you're doing all right so far. You're doing all right, Timucin. It's okay so far.
Yeah, this is as far as I'm going to get with boxing, but yeah. But I think that's kind of like how it works. I can't recall like one, but like I said, there's so many little steps along the way of somebody saying in the comments, hey, I'm so thankful for this community. This is great to be here. Or somebody in the comments saying, I love your guys' passion. Keep going at it. Especially somebody from Liverpool appreciating what you're doing and stuff like that. It kind of takes all those body blows away.
Yeah. Have you ever found yourself in a moment with players or staff connected to Liverpool that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for what you're doing?
I mean, 23 Foundation is probably the biggest thing that we've done in that sense where, like Jamie has sent a video, like thanking us, like kind of like, personalized messages and stuff like that. And that's when it was just like, we're getting somewhere. When Jamie uses the word, and I was like, hey, if anybody talks crap about the name American Scouser, we can just, Jamie doesn't mind it because he said it. So we can just send it their way, kind of a deal. I think that has, this last one, for example, we did a live at Carragher's in New York. The 24-hour podcast was at Carragher's. They welcomed us. I mean, Michael was awesome, and Brian, and they organized everything, and we were there, spent 24 hours. They locked us in and all that kind of stuff. So it was, those are moments where you're like, this is cool. We're getting somewhere. Like, you're making these contacts. And I think, like with supporter clubs and stuff, I sometimes do not realize how many people I know. Where like, you constantly talk to people on social media and stuff like that about this and that. And when we do the fundraiser, we get the different supporter clubs sponsoring an hour or whatever it might be. And I'm like, I'll message some people I know, letting them know like, hey, this is going on, if they can help or if they can spread the word. I mean, 150 messages later, I was like, geez, man, my entire contacts list is Liverpool fans, it seems like. So I think those are moments where I realized, wow, like I've met so many cool people. I made so much contact, with people through this. And now we might talk about other stuff that is not Liverpool, but it's like when I would go back to college with Daniel, that's what made the contact. Yeah. And then it kind of like takes over from there.
So American Scouts has afforded you a lot of these connections. What has these connections taught you about different people and communities, and even about yourself? Like, what have you learned about yourself just from doing this?
Honestly, more than anything else, as I talk about Liverpool, I realized how much my view on life has changed. Part of this is getting freaking old, probably. But aside from that, I'm not the guy I was, I don't know, like 30 years ago. So like, when I met, when I came for college and stuff like that. And I think, like my political views have evolved over time. And I know that's partially because of age and you get smarter and wiser or whatever it is. But I feel like now, like it aligns so well with me, like the club itself. But I've also like learned that, you can have people who are very different and they can bond over something. There's a lot of stuff that people, the powers that be, do to just separate us. And it basically becomes very evident because you only need one common thing. And when you have one common thing, that could be just both in the same club, that starts the conversation before you realize that, hey, aside from that one thing, we actually agree on everything else. We're all like, we're actually the same people. There's so much effort to separate people by the powers that be, because that's how they cash in. That's how they keep their power. I've learned that, you meet so many different people. And I think part of this becomes, being an international student. I mean, you come over here so you can kind of tell, like, when you see so many different people from so many different backgrounds, we're not that freaking different. And I think when you start the conversation with one common thing, did you see Mo's goal? And then you start talking about that before you know what, you talk about different things. I think it becomes a notion that you're like, hey, man, we're not that freaking different. You only need one common thing. There are people in our Discord channel, like I said, we talked about how political the club is. So I would think the majority feels that way, but there are a few who might not. But still, it shows that you might not politically perfectly align, but as long as you're not the extreme, you're still going to have a lot of common ground. We're actually not that freaking different. We ultimately want the same thing for our kids, for the next generations and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it does as well. It does. You do have that sense of empathy, don't you, with other people, especially if you lived through the 90s of Liverpool. You definitely have a lot of empathy. I definitely do. So, and a sad thing is now, I have a lot of friends who are Man United fans, and I find myself empathizing with them, which is like if you'd have asked me 10 years ago, I'd be like, you can stick it up their ass. But now I'm like, do you know what? I actually, listen, lads, I'm not going to get on my high horse here. I'm just enjoying it while it lasts, and we're doing all right, and you're not doing great. But I'm not going to jump on it too much because I remember the 90s and it was miserable when they used to win all the time. So I get that.
Say that because my brother's a United fan, and so we actually do the show for our channel for American Scouts around. They're like rival bros, and like it's basically we talk about the Premier League, but mainly about Liverpool and United. And yeah, he's hoping the cycle turns eventually back. He can turn back the clock and stuff. But no, when it comes to my brother, I don't have empathy on that. I just pile on as much as I can while I can, because these things are these cycles will go back. So better pound as much as possible now.
I'm the same. I'm not getting exactly, because you listen, people never forget that stuff either. They'll always come back for you. They'll come looking for you. Especially when you've got a brother who's a mank, then you've got no chance, because he'll come straight for you. Be the first phone call. So where do you see American Scouts are heading in the next couple of years?
I mean, the goal is to constantly keep growing it, obviously. So we're hoping eventually as we recruit, we get some people who are probably more handy with that stuff, can do that stuff a lot easier, and help us get the sites to, like you say, do a guide to traveling and stuff like that. Give more resources. I would love to down the road have more resources in terms of the history of the club, because the initial goal, like I say, when we started was connections, and then we wanted to, if you're a new fan, here is Liverpool, so you can learn more about Liverpool. Initially, obviously, we didn't have as much on the side, so hey, you talk to other Liverpool fans and you learn that way. But I would like to have some stuff on there in terms of more resources, more information stuff. And then obviously, we want to continue growing the podcast and the YouTube channel. It has been fun. I have tried to stay off camera as long as possible. I really fought it, but obviously it's the way to go, unfortunately, to reach bigger masses and stuff. And it has been fun. Like I say, it has been another avenue where we have connected with people who normally maybe we would not, and especially around the world. like in Liverpool and stuff. Like you say, a lot of those people in the morning show who just show up and say, "Hey, good morning, guys. I got my tea and stuff." It's, it has helped us connect with those people. And I would like to do that. I would like to constantly keep growing the numbers and stuff like that. When it comes to everybody says like, oh, when is it going to start? Like, I really don't care about the financial aspect of it as much, because I think when you start worrying about that, it becomes work. It's like, are we having fun while we're doing it? While we're having fun, if, it starts making money while we're having fun, that's freaking great. That's double the fun, if you will. But, it doesn't, as long as we're kind of having fun, like still hanging out together. We're not really, for the most part, doing something that we wouldn't normally do. In a lot of ways.
Yeah. Do you get the opportunity to do like, have you got enough sort of clout, I suppose, to do sort of an American Scouser evening or a night in one of the supporters clubs? Like, and just have a chat and information and, maybe every now and again you could maybe snag a player or something like that.
That will hopefully be the next step. But I think, you have to get to a certain point where people don't say, who is here next Wednesday? So once they know that they're like, oh, American Scouser is here next Wednesday, I think that's when it'll be a successful event. You don't want to I don't want them to stumble upon us. I want them to be like, oh, they're going to be there? Oh, that's cool. Let's go.
Well, listen, if you've got Carragher's in your back pocket from day one, that's not a bad start at all, is it?
Yeah, it was a cool experience. And like I say, Brian and Michael, man, they were so awesome with us. And it was a really, really cool experience. 24 hours not easy. I would not recommend it physically.
Was it you for 24 hours?
It's 3 of us for 24 hours straight.
And how did that work? Like, I watched the little bits of it, and just for the people who obviously may not have seen it, was it just different people coming on and helping you out, or was it you three just talking for X amount of time?
Oh, God, no. Thank God, no. So basically what we do is, the concept was 24 hours, 3 of us are on 24 hours straight. But, like we have different groups, companies, individuals sponsor hours. That's part of the fundraising effort. We do that. So, like let's say you sponsor an hour and you would come on during that hour. Like we would chat. It's usually we do it like the last preseason game. We did it during the Charity Shield, Community Shield, whatever it's called now. We did it during that day. So, we talk about Liverpool, the summer transfers, what we expect to see this year and stuff like that. We talk Liverpool, just general. And if it's a company, you can kind of talk about your company. If it's a podcast, you can talk about the podcast and stuff. It's just chat because, God knows I don't want to talk 24 hours straight. So basically, that's a lot of that. Our contributors will hop on. So, like if we don't have an hour sponsored, like 2 a.m. or something like that, somebody will like, hey, I'll hop on so that we have somebody else to chat with and stuff like that. But so we do that. Aside from that, we do a silent auction with items that are like donated from the foundation as well as like other groups and individuals and stuff. So we do that. We had this year we had like autographed books by like George Sefton, Jeff Folding, Keith Salmon. Abigail donated some of her work for us to auction as well, like art stuff. And obviously we had like jerseys and stuff like that. We had like a signed glove by like Ali donated that we auctioned off and stuff. So we do that. Great. And then aside from that, we have a GoFundMe. So all those together combined is like the entire fundraising effort. But it is tiring, but yeah, it's fun. It's definitely fun.
Though. It's like you said, it's something that's, you're working towards something. And it is fun. And listen, if it gets you on the map, it gets you on the map. But at the same time, you feel it's something that's beneficial for you personally. So there's no real risk in it. It's just another thing that
unless you pass out. Yeah.
Well, listen, if you take it, the problem is if you're taking advantage of Carragher's, then it's a problem. But if you limit yourself, then it's not that bad, I suppose, mate.
Yeah, it was. I would not. I know the boys were drinking some Guinness and stuff like that. I'm like, dude, if I drink, the funny thing is, the day before we were in New York, we went to New York a day early, and my wife and I were hanging out, and I had like 1 or 2 beers midday, and I was like, yeah, there's no way I'm drinking tomorrow because I'm getting sleepy with a midday beer. It would knock me out if I drink it like 2 a.m. or something like that. But yeah, it's very rewarding. I mean, charity work is never on anybody who's done a fundraiser and stuff can tell you.
I'm doing it now, mate.
A lot of work.
I'm on one now, and it's 25K a day on a bike for the whole of October. So I'm in the thick of it now. So I'm just honestly, my legs are in bits. Like I'll be lucky if I can get off this chair in a minute. It'll be pain, and then I've got to go and get on the bike for today because I've just finished work. So, oh mate, But it is, I get that 100%. I see it a million because it is rewarding and you do get a kick out of it.
Yeah.
And when you see that the money is going to benefit somebody really good down the line. But like you said at the beginning, mate, it's just, I think this American Scouser thing, this whole ethos behind Scousers, I can see how infectious it is, just wanting to be a part of that and wanting to do good for people and help people out. Because that's, like, you've been to Liverpool, I'm sure, a number of times, and people are just, everyone's just dead nice. And they just want to help you out and they want to see people do well and they want to see you succeed. So it's really, really cool. What do you say, last question for you, mate, what would you say the most proudest part of being, call a founder member of American Scouser, or just anything that you've done up to this point? Like, what are you most proud of to this point?
It's been these fundraisers, to be honest with you. Not only because, of like what we did, because it's like a whole thing, right? Like you got to contact a lot of people. You got to get a lot of people involved. I really like seeing how people come together on those, and because a lot of people have to contribute to it. Us three are doing the 24-hour part of it, but there's so many other contributors doing stuff. It's like we came together and made something happen. When I see somebody, I mean, we had an incident, I think, what was it, like maybe like 3-4 months ago, where like somebody was, one of the contributors on the Discord was having like a baby, and they were like trying to get stuff, they just like mentioned, and people were like, dude, where are you registered? And then before you knew it, like a bunch of people like bought stuff from that list. And these are just people who are on Discord together because of this, like Brian Shelton, like one of our contributors, I think maybe like a year ago, like his dogs, this guy, we always make fun of him. He lives out in the woods somewhere, like, Bomber, but his dogs ran away and they were like looking for him and stuff. But it is so cool for people. And I'm sure it is for him and for all of us, where somebody in that Discord channel says, hey, what happened with that, by the way? How are you doing? Are you feeling better? Or how is your dad? Is he doing better? Whatever the case might be. I think that's when I'm probably the proudest, when I look at the community and how people like support each other. Because I feel like, hey, I just started it like with a match, but holy cow, man, look at this fire. Like you can just put your hands on it and get the warmth kind of a deal. I know it just kind of gives that vibe. And that's when I get those punches, man. That's
it. That makes up for all the nonsense. Timucin, that was quality. Like, I really appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Great story. It's fantastic. And anyone who wants to follow you can just head over to americanscouser.com, right? And they can follow along.
Yeah, it's all open right now. We have not monetized the sites because, I mean, you're from Liverpool. If you ever go to Liverpool Echo's site, somebody just sent me a link earlier today. And there was like 2 sentences buried in between like 16 pictures and 85 banners. So yeah, we don't have any ads or anything like that on the website.
That's good.
We, like even the YouTube and stuff like that, it's like basically like whatever YouTube puts at ads and stuff like that. But yeah, we didn't want to do the paywall thing because the goal is to not like monetize. The goal is more like to, grow it. But if you go to the website, americanscouser.com, there's a link there so you can go to our socials, you can go to our YouTube page and stuff like that as well. And yeah, and if anybody's interested after listening to all this, saying like, hey, I want to be part of this, yeah, just like send us a message through our socials or from the website. And we'd love to have you, like however you want to contribute. More than happy to get anybody on board.
Favorite ever Liverpool player?
This used to be Douglas for the longest time, but now I don't know. By recency bias, I'll go Bobby just for like different reasons, not as a player. But growing up,
I'd always go Gerrard, but I did love
the happiness, the smile on the face, the attitude. Yeah, I would say probably Bobby's like recent history. More recency bias than anything else. But growing up, it was always Douglas.
All right, so this is a little bit different because obviously you're looking at talent here, but one Liverpool player, past or present, that you'd love to go for a pint with, for a chat, or just because they're absolutely reckless?
Yeah, there's some dangerous characters in there, right? Yes. I would really like to. I mean, yeah, Jurgen Klopp would be one guy. I know it's not a player. You said a player, so let me not cheat.
No, that's all right as well, to be fair.
I would probably say like Mo, because I really like both of those individuals. I like their outlook on life and like some of the things they say. I like they're a lot deeper than just a manager or a player, it feels like. We did not get as much exposure to, we know the crazy ones from the past, right? Like the ex-players, the older players, but we didn't get as much exposure to hear from them so much because there wasn't constant social media and stuff. I think we have a better understanding, at least we think, from what we see of the current players now, based on like some of the things they say.
Yeah,
those are guys that I would like to sit down and talk life about, I think.
I was going to say you'd save a fortune buying ale for Mo Salah because he doesn't drink. So maybe that's another.
Damn, you got me. Yeah,
That'll be a bonus as well. I mean, to be fair, any money you saved on Salah, you'd probably spend on Klopp's. That's all right. One thing from Turkey that you miss or you just can't get over here.
Food, man. There's some stuff that you just can't duplicate over here. I mean, there's a lot. We've gotten a lot better over the years, but probably like the food is the main one. There are some things that you just can't duplicate. So that's an easy one, probably.
That's fair. Food. Yeah, that's fair. What's your favorite Scouse phrase?
Oh, man, that's a good one. Honestly, I don't believe it's necessarily a Scouse phrase, but it did not really work into my language until I spoke to a lot of Scousers. The whole FFS. I don't know if you want me to say it on air over here.
Oh, I say it all the time. Fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know necessarily it's a Scouse saying, but it really worked into my language. And when I say it here now, like to somebody American, they're like, they kind of like do a double take. But yeah, that's probably my favorite.
So on the back of Turkish question, what's your favorite American food?
American food, man, that's
Chicago hot dogs.
I don't know what we consider American food, right?
Dogs can't be far off. They're not bad.
They're not bad. I definitely like them better than. I don't like the deep dish pizza, for example. Like in
really,
no, I'm not. I'm not a deep dish guy. You would think automatically. You know what? One thing that's okay, like this is Chicago specific as well. Italian beef.
Oh yeah.
Like where are you located? Like, you might not have had it. Really?
Yeah, I'm New York, so I can't. I'm New Jersey, so we've never had it.
To shame. Like that's on the East Coast. Yes, you gotta get to a place like Portillo's or something like that if you ever come to Chicago, and you gotta have Italian beef with like hard jardinera. Nothing beats.
All right, that's good to know. All right, last question. I'm going to put you on the spot here. What do you see a successful season for Liverpool this year?
You got to get one of the major trophies, either the Premier League or the Champions League. I don't know. It's kind of like a roller coaster right now. We were the best team ever 2 weeks ago. Now we're the worst team ever after losing 3 in a row. You know how fans go. With the money spent and the foundation you had that you spent it on, after added onto it, it's on slot to kind of figure it out. And either the Premier League or the Champions League, you got to get one of the big trophies.
That's fair. Actually, I've got one more question for you. What are you singing on the karaoke?
What am I singing on the karaoke? Sheesh. I have no idea because you definitely don't want me singing on the karaoke.
Listen, 99% of people don't want people singing on a karaoke.
I don't know, man. I would have to go with something with 90s. You did get me on that one. I have to think about that one, but it would have to be something with 90s. That's when music was better, 80s and 90s. Spoken like an old guy, but that's when music was better.
I'm not far behind you, mate. I'm not far behind you. Listen, Timucin, thank you so much for your time today. It's been really, really good. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you or someone you know has a story to share, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out to us via our socials or visit www.crossingthepondpodcast.com to get in touch. Please be sure to subscribe, like, or leave a comment if you can. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Across Pond Podcasting.